statement, and then if you guys could use the raise hand feature. I know it's been a little bit since we've done this, but under participants, if you use the raise hand feature, that's how we'll go ahead and take questions. Go ahead, Coach.
All right. Good afternoon. I am actually in the team meeting room, so I'm missing you guys. I'm not sure when we can get back to some live press conferences, but I'm here. As you can see, the United Bank backdrop, and appreciate everybody joining us today. I want to start on a somber note and then get into some of the main stuff we want to talk about. Since the last time we got together in person, and some of it's even happened since our last Zoom press conferences, several of the media members that have covered us in the past, really since I got hired, aren't with us because of pandemic-related furloughs or layoffs. So thinking about them, I do want to say this, as I think local news plays an important role, especially in the midst of when there's a lot going on. So just want to let those guys know that we're thinking about them. So a lot has changed since the last time that we got together. We've had a change of leadership on the defensive side of the ball. I know you all have questions about the separation with Vic. I respect it, but also need you guys to respect that we're not going to talk about that today. I'm not going to be answering questions about it. I stand by my earlier statement. And we're moving forward on defense. And how we're going to move forward is Jamal Adai will lead our secondary efforts, and Jordan Leslie's going to lead our front. They'll work together with the rest of our defensive staff to form our plan, both in practice and in games. We get closer to games, we'll talk more about that. And excited to have Jeff Castile join us with our on-field staff. He came with us back in the spring off the field. Now we move him on field. A lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, obviously a lot of really positive experiences here. A lot of faith in our guys on defense. 4 out of the 5 coaches on that side of the ball have coordinated and called plays, so our kids have a lot of faith in them as well. It's been a tough last 5 months. I think it's probably been a tough 5 months for everybody that's on here, everybody that's listening. I addressed some of those difficulties on a video we released a couple days ago that Austin Gaines and his crew did a really good job with, and it's been tough. I want to get Grant, share a graphic. I want to share this with you all. This is a graphic I shared with our team this morning before we went out on the field, and this is our message. This is how we're messaging in-house, and I'll share it with you all as well. It's stay well and get ready. And we are climbing to be the most improved team in the country and the safest and most fun environment in college football. And that's how we're going about this. And I want to explain it. It's stay well. We started this a few weeks ago, and our motto was get well, get ready. But we are well. So we went through a little bit of our own curve within our program where we had some positive cases, and we've really been able to flatten that. And we've got 0 COVID cases currently within our entire program. So we've been able to flatten that. Now the mission is to stay well and get ready. And that's what we're going to do here within our program is we're going to stay well. And we're going to get ready. And we're going to get ready to play until somebody tells us that we're not going to. And and we're climbing. That's our goal, to be the most improved team in the country. And we're going to do this in a safe environment, which I'll talk about here in a second. And we're going to do it in a fun environment. And that's how we're going to proceed. So Grant, you can take that away. Our team wants to play. Our coaches want to coach. I think that's important voice for it to be out there. Obviously, a lot of our guys were a part of that movement last night, and how incredible that was. You know, I stayed up way later than I really usually do or wanted to, just because I was moved by the actions of not only our players but players across college football, and using their voice and using it in a positive manner to state that they want to play. And I'll be clear, they don't have to play. And we've expressed this and through our entire pandemic with our team is they don't have to play. And they have the opportunity to opt out. They'll remain on scholarship. We've had one student athlete that's chosen to do that to this time. I understand it. I respect it. But they do have a choice whether they will play or will not play. We respect the virus. I think that's important. I've talked about that a bunch with our team. We do respect it, but we also believe in the protocols we have in place to keep our players and our staff as safe as possible. And some of those protocols I'll share with you. Our testing is something that's proven over the last few weeks. And I think, like most things in this pandemic, we've continued to get better at it. And leading into fall camp, that's what I was really pleased. 0 cases coming into it. We have all the cleaning procedures. We've gone to split practices. I'll talk a little bit more of that here in a second. We've had all virtual meetings to this point. We have our weight rooms outdoors. We're not using our locker room. Our helmets, I've got a helmet here. I'll try to show you. Our helmets, I'll try to get it where it doesn't catch the light as well. But we have splash guards here, and then we have a shield here, okay? And so these guys will wear this full helmet, and then they also wear gaiters around their necks, okay? So if their helmet's not on, then they have gaiters. Some guys wear the gaiters and the helmet, okay? But we have multiple cleaning protocols, whether it's we have all the sprayers for equipment for balls. We're eating all our meals outdoors or they're to-go meals. So our protocols, and we continue to change. We've been in constant contact with NFL teams, other Power 5 programs on just getting ideas and continue to do it. And I really plan on kind of sharing with our fans and with you all, kind of walking you through what our procedures look like on a daily basis here in the next few days. So that's kind of that. I know you all have some questions about some other things that are going on in college football. We'll talk about those. Won't back away from those questions. Excited to actually practice football today. We've been able to have, I don't know what the oversight committee officially called them. I called them OTAs. We had OTAs leading into our first practice today, but today was our first actual practice. We're going to gradually get back into it. Had helmets on today. Going to be smart in how we practice and prepare. This is not a normal camp situation for us. We're going to have more breaks built in. It won't be as physical. We've got guys that are getting into shape. We're not as in shape as we normally would be going into a season. So we're going and probably being more careful now than we would have. And I'm just talking about from a conditioning, what we're asking our guys to do. But we had a split squad practice today. We've got our team broken down to gold and blue. I know John wrote about that yesterday. And it's basically done based on who guys live with or who they spend time with outside of football. Because what we want to do is we want to try to keep them contained in those gold and blue teams. We're going to do this for several days until as we continue to learn how to go about practicing. So I thought both quarterbacks looked sharp today. Kendall and Daggy both. They're in 2 different groups, but I thought they looked sharp. Garrett Green's a kid that can really move. I'm excited about him and his growth and what he is. Sinkfield is a guy that showed up in the OTAs, and he was bright. He had several bright moments in practice today. I thought at the receiver position, those guys, we got talent there. Bryce Wheat made some plays down the field, as did Sam James. Sam Brown is a young kid that has shown some flashes here early. I thought that, and I'm mostly going to talk about skill guys just because without pads on, it's really hard to evaluate some of the big guys up front. I thought defensively, Josh Chandler ran around well. You can tell Tonkery is more comfortable as well. Jared Bartlett's had a really good offseason. Alonzo Adai playing safety. I thought that he was active around the ball a lot. Tay Mayo probably had one of his better practices that he's had since he's been here. So those are some guys that kind of stuck out this afternoon, this morning when we went out there and practiced. So with that, I'll take questions. Greg?
Well, I know everybody has 1,000 questions about the new stuff, but let me just get basic first day of practice questions. every returnee back, newcomers all coming as you expected. And there were a lot of transfers who announced that they were coming to WVU. So which of those are actually in camp?
So today, from a transfer standpoint, and y'all are actually asking real football questions. I should have been more prepared for real football questions. I prepared for the other stuff. So Bryce Brand practiced today, and I thought he was sharp. He's a transfer. He's here. We've got. I'm going through my mind right here. We've got 3 guys that are kind of waiting because you got to come in. When you come in, there's 5 days of quarantine. We ended summer school last Friday. So we've got 3 guys that are waiting on to clear quarantines. You got quarantine 5 days, then you get tested. So we're waiting for them to clear quarantine. Am I forgetting him? Scotty Young. Yeah, Scotty Young practiced. He's been through all the OTAs. Yeah, and Scotty he made several plays today, and I think he's going to be a big contributor for us. I like his leadership. He's a football player. He just plays with a lot of feel. He communicates probably as good as anybody we have in the secondary. Tyler Sumter was here, went through practice. We put him in a pressure situation at the end of the blue unit's practice today, and had the whole team around him, and he had the whole team around him socially distanced. All right, but we had the whole team around him, and he drilled one, hit his landmark in front of the whole unit. So that was good. And I apologize if I forgot somebody.
Jerry, I'm trying to unmute you here. Go ahead, Jerry. You were unmuted for a second.
Hi, Neal. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you, Jerry.
Thank you very much for your time. I was just wondering, I'm very curious as to what your athletic director, who's obviously really involved in these meetings, is telling you about his sense about college football and whether or not it will occur this fall.
Yeah, well, I don't want to speak for Shane. Obviously, during this whole thing, we've had a lot of ongoing conversations. We had a long conversation yesterday talking about it, and really yesterday was more about just kind of communicating with him where I really felt like our team was, because we've had a lot of discussions. Our kids have a lot of questions, and all the uncertainty it's not good for anybody, especially when you're one of these young men that's getting ready to play. And they love this. Like I said in that video, man, this is what they do. They love playing college football. So I was expressing to Shane kind of where our players are, and I felt like they wanted to play. They had some questions that they felt like they wanted answered. I got questions I want answered. But they had some questions they wanted answered as far as what it looks like, what's the schedule look like, what's the fans look like. Some of those he doesn't have the answer to as well. We've had probably eligibility questions more so than safety. I don't want to speak for our players either, but we've had very few guys that are necessarily worried about health and wellness or the protocols, because college athletes are talking now more than ever, and some of that has to do with some players being more active, and which I support, but it also has to do with social media and the world's shrunk. People can talk, whether you're in California or in West Virginia, people can talk, and so players talk, and I think they have a great appreciation for how we've approached this with safety and at the forefront. But that was basically what our talks were about in the last 24 hours, was basically how our players felt about playing football, and then what our plan was over the next couple of days.
Go ahead, Mike Kazaza.
I don't see Mike. Is he okay? Yeah.
I'm there. Now?
Yeah, I got you, Mike.
Cool. You I guess yesterday mentioned being more involved on defense, and I get the idea there certainly too, but it sounds like you had talked about schemes, and maybe that involves personnel or different positioning or players. As much as you can say after just one day of this, what might things look like, or what are you experimenting with there?
Yeah, so schematically, how we called everything, the terminology, that is all the same. We haven't changed anybody's position. We want to be multiple. think we have the personnel to be more multiple maybe than we were a year ago. Just with some flexibility with Bryce Brand, with Van Darius, with Jared Bartlett, guys that can play on the line of scrimmage and play at linebacker as well. And then coverages wise, I think that we're going to have the ability at safety to be more involved in our coverage than we maybe were a year ago. And so we've got basically 2 base packages that we're working, and we can call all of our fronts and all our coverages from both those 2 personnel looks. And so we're multiple. We got more bodies than we had a year ago, and that's not a knock on any of our kids that were here last year. And this is year 2, and within the same scheme. And so our kids have more confidence too. And I've been impressed with really, and I think this says a lot about our coaches. You know, we're further ahead right now mentally than we've ever been. And when I say we, I'm talking about offensively or defensively, going back to when I was a coordinator all the way through with his year 6 of being a head coach. And a lot of that has to do with all the Zoom meetings we had going back till April. But I think our coaches have done a really good job of teaching in unique settings and really growing as teachers. Where we have some room to grow is just on the reaction piece. That's what you miss. You know, you miss the reactions in the walkthroughs or the OTAs, whatever you want to call them. Assignment-wise, we're really sharp, but today we did it full speed for the first time, and our reactions just aren't there yet. You know, it's been a long time since we had a full speed on March 12th. So I gave you a long answer there, but same defense. We're just going to be more multiple.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Coach, you mentioned earlier this summer about changing the way you practice, maybe some more smaller position groups, more skelly, things like that to kind of limit the contact. Where are those plans right now? You know, how's that going to unfold over your practices this fall?
Well, part of it we did going to the split squad. The other thing that we've done is, you know, due to our limited numbers by going split squad, we've also reduced our roster a little bit. You can bring up to 110 to camp. We have not brought that many bodies in. We're closer around that 100 range, I think. So our numbers, obviously doing split squad practices, we have at the most 2 at each position. And so what we're doing is we're doing a high tempo drill, and then we drop into a low tempo drill, and we build in more breaks during our practice. And then the other thing that we're really conscious about, for instance, is we never do anything longer than 10 minutes. And we do a lot more as far as group. We do like half line. We're doing some half line stuff, both half line run and half line, like 7-on-7 and things like that we've done in the past. And then we're really thinking through, you know, your O-line and your D-line are the ones that are in the most close proximity. And so what we're doing is we're really being careful. Like if we're doing one-on-one pass pro, only the guys going against each other up. If we're doing any type of O-line, D-line work versus each other, is we're taking breaks, and we're never together for longer than a 10-minute. Okay. And so we're just there's so much that goes into this and so much planning that goes into all this stuff. And I think I sent out a tweet yesterday talking about our athletic training staff, our equipment staff, our operations staff, and a ton of credit to those people, because is all these protocols, and it's put a lot of stress on everybody. And we don't have as many students helping because, again, we're trying to reduce our staff as well. And so everybody in those areas has had to really pick it up. Strength conditioning too. I don't want to leave them out. Strength conditioning as well. But all those groups have really had to expand their duties, and we've had to think through everything. You know, like our check-in right now is in the East Concourse of the stadium. We've got blue arrows throughout the whole concourse telling people where to go. If you go into our IPF right now, is we got nameplates spread 6 foot apart, and that's where we're operating as a pseudo storage facility. That's where the guys keep their stuff when they're practicing. That's where their helmet and their shoulder pads are, so we can clean them after practice. So there's just a lot that goes into it, and I want to give credit to all our support staff and our administrators.
Aaron, go ahead.
Coach, you're just mentioning defensive scheme. In regard to play calling without a true defensive coordinator label, how does that communication, I guess, sort of work with a bunch of coaches and talking heads going through that whole process?
Yeah, well, Jamal and Jordan are both on the lead over there. They've been working together for the last couple of weeks, and they'll continue to work together. And even last year, Jordan called the front a lot, and we move our front a lot. And they got to be on the same page, and they will. That's what the week's planning will be about, is making sure our front and our coverage is matched, which is important. And who's going to be our run fitters and all those type of things that go into it without getting into the weeds of it. And so what we're going to do as we get in, all right, to some true 11-on-11 like scrimmage type situations, we're going to work through a couple of different really scenarios, and then as we get closer to a game week, couple weeks out, we'll kind of let you know where we're at.
Go ahead, Chris Anderson.
Hey, Coach. In one of your earlier meetings on here, you discussed the possibility of having guys to take a couple reps at other positions just to prepare for worst case scenarios. If you can you divulge who some of those guys are, and what's your thinking behind choosing those players? Because obviously a lot of these guys were two-way stars in high school. Yeah.
Well, and you probably have as much knowledge on that. You and Keenan really would have as much knowledge of that as anybody on the call, because of the recruiting piece and knowing what guys starred on that were both sides, played both sides. So here's how we handled this: is during these OTAs, we had position individual work, and we started in really small groups, and we eventually got to this gold and blue where we got our team split. And so we're not necessarily training them on schematics. What we're doing is they did some position work, and so they understand the fundamentals. And then if we have to plug them in, and it's mostly skill guys too, but if we had to plug them in on offense or defense, we could teach them a couple of easy schemes that we could, in a week's time. But we work the fundamentals, and we're going to do that. Way our practice schedules are rolling, when we have a recovery day, we're going to work where we work some crossover. I'm not going to get into exactly who those guys are, but you, to be honest with you, you can probably figure it out. The guys that were really good offensive players that are playing defense, and the guys that were really in high school, I'm talking about, and the guys that are playing offense are really good defensive players. And so we've got a handful of each that I think can give us some depth if we need to. We're not going to do it unless we need to, but we're going to have the capability within a game week. If we need to do that, we'll be able to.
Question here from Bob Hertzel, Coach.
Yep.
Wants to know how you encourage the players to speak out in the "we want to play" movement, and where the line is between the coach running the show and the players running the show, so to speak.
Yeah, well, that was kind of news to me because I didn't encourage them at all. I was actually at a softball tournament all day yesterday, and I was on the phone the entire weekend. We had a little workout on Saturday morning. And basically, I was here in Morgantown at softball fields the rest of the weekend with my daughters. But obviously, having to be glued to social media, which I'm not a big fan of, but that's kind of the world we live in right now. So, obviously, you can feel the tide start to turn. But we didn't. We had our last communication kind of with our players on Saturday morning. All that went down last evening was I saw it just like you did, Bob, and so I thought it was pretty neat. I'm in the group that thinks that we really need football. I think that football is positive. I believe that we can do it in a safe environment. We do respect the virus. I said that earlier, but I do think we can make this work, and we continue to learn from it. I think we've got several weeks now before we play. We haven't got a schedule, so I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but I know it won't be for several weeks. So I think we got plenty of time to continue to learn. So as far as your second part is, I think it's important that the players do have an opportunity to express themselves. We've given them that opportunity. They've asked questions. They continue to ask questions. Again, they ask eligibility questions more than anything. And some of those types of questions are, okay, what happens if we only play 5 games in the fall? What happens if we get going and you don't have a red shirt and you only play a certain amount of games, what's that look like? And so I think some of those questions are the ones that, and I'm just talking about our players. I'm not talking about across college football, but those are some of the questions that we're getting. And then they want to know that is everybody that we play going to have the same testing protocols and procedures that we do? And what I tell them is when we announce a schedule, it's my understanding that we're going to announce what our conference's protocols are, and those are going to be very similar to what we're doing, and the testing will be exactly the same for everybody that we're going to line up and play. So I'm not sure, I don't know if that answered your question, but tried to.
Thanks, Coach. Go ahead, John.
Hi, Neal. It's John Raby with the Associated Press. I had two questions. One is just about your resiliency and your resolve in this unusual environment and the role that college coaches have right now going forward with prep for a season that may grind to a halt. So I just wanted to ask you about that, your resolve and your resiliency. And also the second question is, hypothetically, during a pandemic, do you think players are safer at school or at home? I guess I'm just trying to figure out where players might be more susceptible if they were living at home versus being at school.
So the resolve question I'll answer. Here's where we're at. This thing it's been tough. We're just trying to do the next right thing. That's it. Trying to do the next right thing. And that's where we're at with our players. That's where we're at with our staff. That's our mentality right now is we're just trying to do the next right thing. And then the second question, I think everything's relative. You know, I can't answer that question for everybody that we have in our program right now. I will say this, for a good majority of it is if we're not playing football, are they getting tested once or twice a week? I'm going to say probably not. If they're not playing football, are they going through the same safety protocols because they want to work out and they're going to do drills. They're going to do those type of things. Are they safer doing that here than they are at their local high school or at the local gym? I think absolutely, because what we're doing from a cleaning standpoint, we're outdoors. We have professionals, experts in their field, whether it's strength conditioning, whether it's at their position. I know we have experts, so their training can be at a higher level. So I can answer those questions, but I can't speak because I don't know what all 100 of them are going to do. Okay, I speculate, but it'd be pure speculation. I'll answer the question with this. I feel really comfortable with what we're doing with our players, okay? From a safety and COVID protocol procedures, I feel really good about what our medical team and how we're approaching this from an entire athletic department.
All right, we got two more questions here. First from Jerry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Neal, a couple follow-ups. I know coaches normally wait a few days before they put on the pads. Are you waiting longer this year to put on the pads because of the protocol or the situation? The other question is, in your conversations with your players, how do they feel about playing spring football?
So let's answer both of those separately, okay? So the first one is we're going to wear helmets tomorrow, and then I'm looking at some of our GPS data, and we've got people that are kind of tracking like how long our guys are in close contact and what's a practice look like when we're in helmets, and anything we do is kind of what we call tag mode, where they're just tagging off, defense tagging off. So, and then we're going to eventually put shoulder pads on. I don't want to put an exact day on it, and I haven't told our players an exact day either. But we are going to be gradual. You know, you're allowed to on day 3 to put shoulder pads on. I have not made that decision whether we're going to do that or not. I want to evaluate today and tomorrow on video, and then get the GPS data, and then have the individuals that are kind of looking at and tracking how long certain groups are together, get those times for me before we make that protocol or before we make that decision. The second one on spring, I think that's a difficult question. And here's the way I've been thinking about this. I don't know if we need to get into that mode until we have to. I think spring football is doable from playing. I think the student athletes are going to have major eligibility concerns about playing in spring. And when I say that, this is what I mean. Okay, so how many games can you play in the spring? Can you play 8? Can you play 10? I don't know. I've seen a bunch of different models. I think it's doable. I think there's plenty of time. I'm not in the group that I'm that I think you can't play some games in the spring and then turn around and play in the fall. But if I'm a player, I'm looking at it, and my biggest question is, I want to play and get the current rules give you 4 years of eligibility. And if I'm a player, I want to maximize my 4 years eligibility. And that's where we're going to run into some issues in the spring. Can the models work? Absolutely. But I think we have to address the eligibility concern from the student athletes. And like I said, I think we can make it work in the fall. I think it's doable. I think we can do it in a safe manner. I think the biggest question is this, and this is something that people aren't talking about. What's the plan if we don't play? What's the plan if we don't play? Everybody's talking about, hey, we got to make these decisions. And I just want to know what the plan is if we don't play. How do we handle these 100 student athletes that I have, and that all these Power 5 schools and all these Group of 5 schools, and how do we handle that? Because the reason I ask is we broke out of here in March and all sports ended, and nobody really had a plan because nobody really saw the extent. We didn't see this coming. We didn't have time to plan. And so before we make a decision about are we going to play or not going to play, we got to make decisions about it, what it looks like if we don't play. And if we make that decision, okay, which I'm against, but if we make that decision, then we've got to have a clear plan on how we're going to move forward in this semester with these guys. And it can't be, hey, we're not playing. Oh, I don't know. That doesn't work. They're tired of that. They're tired of I don't knows. Okay. So let's make decisions and let's go about it. Okay. And so I think that's a piece. And the other thing, and why I'm talking about this is I've talked about, we respect the virus. My question is, and I know medical experts, they have to look at this from the medical point of view. And I get it. Okay. It's serious. It's a novel virus, which means it's new. We don't know the long-term effects. We continue to garner information. I will say this is our return to play policies include echocardiograms. They include cardio MRIs, all those type of things. Those hot button issues that have been talked about, ours include that. We are going through every medical procedure that our medical team advises. Our kids are going. There's a long process to get back on the field. Okay, and I'm for that. But we're not talking about what the collateral damage is for young people when something they love is taken away from them, and that structure and that discipline is taken away from them. So you take them out of their athletics, you take them out of their structure, you take them out of what they really love. What happens? What happens? Because I've seen it. When they were not here for 3 months, I've seen it with our team. All right. So I think that's something that needs to go into when decision makers are making the decision. They got to think about the collateral damage as well. So next question.
Right. Last question is from Coach Hunter.
So, Coach, I'll end it. I mean, obviously nothing's normal right now, but for players and coaches, does practice feel normal again? I mean, is this sort of your sanctuary from everything else that's going on outside?
The most fun I've had professionally over the last few months has been today, and then during our walkthroughs where we've been able to get on the field and we interact and you're trying to get people better. You're teaching and you're seeing people get better, and you can see guys, their demeanors have changed. They have something to look forward to. And so, yeah, that's been the best time, Greg. Our guys have new energy when they're out there. They're able to get off their phones. They're able to get away from all the uncertainty, and they're really going to do what they love to do. And so that's been a positive experience, and I hope it continues. I hope we continue to stay well, get ready, like we told our guys. So, all right, I will see you all in a few days. Hopefully, we'll get back and where we can talk about more football. But appreciate what y'all do. Again, think about those people that aren't with us anymore, and let's hope we have football to cover. All right, see you guys. Thank you all.